Until noon, this is Neil Mitchell.
Good morning. Well, now you could say it's certain restrictions will ease tomorrow, but they won't end. You can be certain they will ease tomorrow with these latest figures just through 11 new local cases, but all were in quarantine while infectious. So the government will be extremely confident because of that. There were 25,404 tests, 13,953 vaccinations. We've got to get that up. But I'd say it's almost certain they won't end. But what do you think are the most important? What do you want to see eased first? 96900 693 13 13 32. Personally, I'd hope schools are top of the list. I would hope pubs and cafes can open. There'll be some restrictions on numbers. I don't think we'll be standing at the bar for a long time yet. I think we'll be wearing masks for a long time yet. Don't hold your breath about major sport. What do you want to see eased first? Because I don't think there's much doubt the restrictions will ease from midnight tomorrow. 96900 693 13 13 32. Give me a call now. And, well, you're talking about tough times. Think about our mates in New South Wales. Reports today that the lockdown there may extend until September. Now, also today, something else in all this, the protesters. I've had a bit of a rethink. There are calls from police for you to dob them in. See him on TV. Oh, I know him. He's Billy from up the road. Dob him in after you've had a look at the videos. But I don't think there's any point in abusing these protesters who are storming around the streets. Yes, they behaved like idiots, some of them. Yes, they were massively irresponsible. But abusing them won't stop it. And I don't even know that fining them will. Because I suspect buried in the middle of the idiots who are just there to make trouble, there might be some normally sensible and decent people. People who are so frustrated and worried about what's going on that they've made a very, very bad decision and gone out into the streets. They're the people we need to reach. We need to get them to see sense, because we can't afford to have these rallies happening every month as they're now threatening. If you were at the rally, give me a call now, 96900 693 13 13 32. No shouting, no abuse. I want to try to convince you, because if you don't go and you return the protest to the realm of the wackos. But I think the Premier was quite wrong yesterday when he said this about the protest in Melbourne.
Frankly, seriously, I'm making a serious point. I don't know what half of them were protesting against.
You.
Well,
a lot of them.
Then, well, good on them. Except it's illegal, it's unsafe, it's selfish, and it puts at risk the hard work that millions of other Victorians are doing. And it's simply wrong. And if calling it out for the appalling behaviour that it is offends them, tough. They'll need to get over that.
Okay, well, a lot of what he said is right there, but I can't believe that he doesn't know what they were protesting about. At least some of the protesters were showing the level of disquiet in the community. Everybody is under stress. Some have joined these wackos because of it. We've got to reach those decent people, get them to see sense, and the sense is this, it's simple. We all hate lockdowns. We all hate restrictions. We are in a health crisis. Have a look what's happening in Sydney. They may be locked down to September. The reality is we have to hold off the potential of a tsunami of illness and death until we have decent levels of vaccination. Until that happens, we have lockdown and restrictions continuing, and there is no option. Otherwise, we could see massive loss of life. This Delta variant is proving so tough. Again, look to Sydney. Now, we're stuck with it. Restrictions until vaccination, which is why I urge everybody to consider it seriously. These protesters are now planning to hit the streets once a month. That's dangerous. It could lead to a spread. It's foolish. But it also displays frustration for many. Reach them. Punish the organisers. Reach the supporters. Convince them, because punishment probably won't work. Love to hear from you if you were there and your views. How do we handle it? Tough or talk? Protests are part of it, and the restrictions are a big part of it. They will be eased, I'm sure, from midnight tomorrow night. Mary, what would you like to see change?
Oh, look, apart from the obvious, like schools, I would actually like to see the funeral numbers lifted substantially quickly. We've got families who lost loved ones before these restrictions started that are holding off, having a life celebration. So that would be really nice to be able to.
That's a really good, Mary, that's a really good one. That's a very important one. Thank you. And you'd say there might be some hope, because the funeral industry has shown mostly that it can organise the funerals well within the rules of COVID safe. So you'd hope that was a chance. Robin, what do you think?
Morning, Neil. I think schools need to go back. I don't agree with them shutting down schools every time we go into lockdown.
Yeah, even though Delta is shown to affect younger people?
Well, the kids that, all the children from Victoria are behind this year, because, especially the younger ones, because they missed so much school last year, and I don't think it's good for them. I don't think it's good for our future. There's so many kids behind.
Hey, Robin, would you ever go to a protest?
No. I don't agree with it, and I think they're extremely selfish.
Good on you. Thank you. Yeah, I agree with you about the schools. Strongly agree with that. If possible. Pat, hello.
Oh, good morning, Neil. I would like to see them lift the 5 kilometre limit, because no point in letting us out of lockdown and not allowing us to drive more than 5 kilometres. No point at all.
Okay, Pat, thank you very much. I think you'll be pretty confident if the lockdown goes, so will that limit. But let's read the room a bit more. I think schools will go back for some students. Retail businesses will reopen with restrictions. Masks will be compulsory everywhere. I don't think we're going to see crowds, not in any number, back at the sport after you see what happened at the MCG and Amy with this outbreak, this wave. Community sport may not be back. And after outbreaks at the Miss Frankie's restaurant, Young and Jackson's, and concerns still about the Crafty Squire pub, I get the feeling it's going to be tough rules for hospitality as well. On the line, Victorian President of the Australian Hotels Association, Danny Canny. Good morning.
Good morning, Neil.
Well, have you got any confidence that it'll be a significant easing for your people?
Not significant easing. We're reading the tea leaves as you are, and expecting that we're expecting to open Wednesday. We're just hoping that the whole venue can open with some numbers that allow us to get open and get our people back to work.
Are you being consulted by the government?
We've been pleased in the past week, the conversations we've had, and I think now there is a genuine understanding within government of just how tough it has been for hospitality and where hospitality sits, and it isn't just a matter of opening a door and away it goes. So we've actually had a productive week. It may have been your work on this, Neil, that we believe that government have come to the table with us and really had listened that if we're going to open under heavy restrictions, then the support that hospitality needs to be relative to those restrictions.
Do you think you'll get any advanced knowledge, because you want to get things... If, for example, restrictions do lift on you to some extent, midnight tomorrow night, do you get advanced knowledge of that?
No, we'd like to know, certainly by this afternoon, to allow those venues to make a decision, not just about whether we will open, but under what restrictions, because some businesses will make a decision on those numbers, whether it is viable for them to actually do it. So that advance warning allows venues somewhat to get their staff back if they think they're going to open, do the preparation they need if they need to get open. We'd love to trade our way to prosperity, but we understand that we're in the middle of a pandemic. We've got great confidence in our no tick, no entry campaign. I think that has shown to work, and we want to have confidence in that so that we can get to, as you said, restrictions until vaccination.
Do you think, Martin Pakula referred to vertical consumption, which I guess is standing at the bar having a beer. That's not coming back for a while, is it?
You'd think if you look at what's happened in the past, it's been one of the last things to be released, with seated service being a requirement initially. We believe pubs are a little bit different. When you have that image of people standing up, they have an image of crowds and large crowds together. Pubs can manage that, and particularly in smaller groups where we can, because it does open up areas in a hotel that people can actually trade. I'm talking about a country pub with people standing around a bar having a beer. In smaller groups, we understand that large groups is going to be prohibitive for a fair while, but a lot of our venues too also rely on stand-up style functions, after-work drinks where people like to stand up and mingle, birthday parties and so forth. So some vision around when that might occur so people can make bookings is also important for our industry.
Okay, what do you think you'll get? You've been given a nod on anything? What are you expecting?
No, we haven't. What we're expecting, what we're hoping is to open in a safe way. And we think if seated service is part of that, then we can live with that. But it's more for us the one person per 2 square metres, which is basically 50% capacity, and that allows for small venues to get open, medium and larger venues. Anything lower than that and venue caps will make it very restrictive on venues.
Thank you very much for that, and I apologise. I think I called you Danny. It's David, obviously. Thank you, David.
My pleasure.
David Canny, Victorian President of the Australian Hotels Association. I apologise, David Canny. Okay, more of your calls in a moment. What do you think should be eased? What should be eased first? 96900 693 13 13 32. And anybody who went to the protest, is willing to have a debate about it. It needn't be fiery, just a sensible debate. Or people, what's your view? Do you think that the protesters should be fined? Should the book be thrown at them? Or do we sort of listen, try and negotiate, try and stop the damn things happening? Because we don't want them. Could have been some decent people there. 96900 693 13 13 32. Also, my Olympic preview coming up. I'll be talking to a young man, the family of a young man later, who was almost a role model in the middle of COVID. And anybody see a meteor travelling west, green in the sky last night? Anybody see that? Maybe it was all our imagination. More in a moment.
Until noon, you're listening to Neil Mitchell.
9, we're talking about easing restrictions, easing expectations, and I'm indebted to a friend of mine who sent this. I think the expectations for Melbourne reaching the grand final should be eased. Thank you very much. I think I did that some time ago. Michelle, hello.
Hi, Neil. How are you?
Okay.
That's good. I think get the kids back to school first. Leave the restrictions there till Friday, so we make sure that there's nothing that's come out of this protest, and punish them. I mean, I'm so sick of it. So anyone that's got a visa, sorry,
you would keep all restrictions on until Friday.
Till Friday, because you don't want to have another breakout and go back into lockdown again. It just makes sense because you don't know what these people have done or what they've had. And as for punishment, if they've got a visa, rip it up, send them back to where the hell they come from, and anyone else, will they get fined? I'm sick of it.
Australians, but don't assume that they've come from somewhere.
Well, a lot of them have got visas, so
what do you
rip it up, send them back. I'm just sick of it, Neil. I've been locked up for 2 years.
Why are you assuming they're visa holders, not Australian?
I'm not saying all of them. I said if some of them have got it, and if they've got visas, rip it up and send them back. And I said, and as for the rest, fine them.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you very much, and we all stay in lockdown another week. Look, given that these 11 cases today were all in isolation for the entire period of their infectiousness, I think it is most likely will come out of, well, there'll be some easing tomorrow. Marissa, hello.
Hi, Neil. I'm just ringing up on behalf of some fantastic girls who run a hairdressing salon. They are the forgotten ones. They have not had much government assistance at all. They don't qualify for their staff to get any payment this time round. And I really do believe they're the forgotten ones. I don't believe they'll be opened up tomorrow, and I think they should be.
Okay, thank you, Marissa. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the Olympics now, just quickly, but I will come back to this after 9 o'clock. I'll be talking to the police about how you stop these protesters getting out. I mean, in the end, it's not about the fine is there to try and stop them. I don't know that's going to work. They want us to dob them in. Is that going to work? Marissa, thank you. We'll also come back to what you want eased, and I'll be talking to the family of a young Olympian who I think is a role model for everybody trying to survive lockdown in Melbourne. First, the Olympics.
An update from Japan. Thanks to the new Kia Cerato GT. Get mean.
Shane McGuinness is our Olympic reporter with a watching brief right through the games. Shane, did you watch the opening ceremony?
I did. I was far from overwhelmed, I think it's fair to say. I've seen quite a few of them, from a young kid to now, and I thought it was probably the most boring that I've seen. I know that sounds harsh.
We had over 3 million people watching it.
Yeah, absolutely. Our most watched show for the year. I think the most watched opening ceremony since 2008. I just think it was very somber. It was very subdued. I just think we know that's the world of the last 18 months. I would have liked to have seen something a little bit more upbeat, but there were some good facets, including the drones. Did you see the drones,
no.
Neil, making the picture of the globe and the emblem? Very well done.
Yeah, I saw it on the news. Anyway, Shane McGuinness says the opening ceremony was boring. Everybody agree with him? That's what you're saying, isn't it?
I didn't think it was as spectacular as past opening ceremonies.
Hey, Brendan Smith, just quickly, bronze in the individual medley. He's a great, I'm talking to his parents after about 9:30. He's a great example, this kid, right through lockdown. He's been swimming in the ocean and they put a big rubber rope around him to get him so he could swim in his own pool.
It's an incredible story in that he went to Tokyo and, making the games was an achievement in the first instance, qualified fastest in the heats for the 400 individual medley final, and then yesterday came away with the bronze. Our first medal of these games, Neil. It was also the first time an Australian had won a medal in the 400 IM since 1984. It's not a strong suit, but it was for Brendan Smith yesterday. And just to see the joy on his face, he didn't worry about not winning gold or silver. To have an Olympic medal was just an absolute treasure, and that's one of the stories of the game so far.
Okay, what is on today? What are we looking at today?
It's all about the pool, and there are two names that you need to know today. Katie Ledecky up against Ariane Titmus. Ledecky, the reigning Olympic champion in the 400 freestyle, the world record holder as well, up against Titmus, who is the reigning world champion. She won back in the World Championships in 2019 against Ledecky and was within half a second of her world record at the Australian trials last month. This is probably the event of the Games. 12:20 this afternoon. Australia a chance for gold with Emma McKeon in the 100 butterfly as well, and in the men's 100-metre freestyle relay. So plenty of opportunities in the pool.
Hang on. It's day one and a bit, and you say this is the event of the Games.
The event of the Games. Titmus versus Ledecky. Write it down.
What about the men's 100 metres sprint?
No, write this down. Titmus versus Ledecky. Maybe if Australia makes the gold medal match. No, definitely. If the Australians make the gold medal match of the basketball, that would supersede it.
You're just parochial. You only want to see Australians win.
Yeah, correct.
Me too. I'm with you. Good on you, Shane. Talk to you later. Shane McGuinness, that's at the Tokyo hub, the Olympic update. We're talking to him right through the game. Just keep you on top of what you need to know, what you need to understand. And I'll talk to the people behind the athletes. I find them even more fascinating than the athletes themselves. I think the real performers behind most of the athletes are the families, the parents. They are the performers of the Games. More calls in a moment.
On 3AW693, this is Neil Mitchell.
Coming up after 9, the weekend review and the regions. What's been happening in the regions? You must be furious about this continuing lockdown for the regions. Shane on the email, people are labelled heartless if they question public health orders. Nothing could be further from the truth. The abuse hurled at the people at the march is not helpful. They're marching in the streets because they feel voiceless and feel hopeless, just like I do. We'll pursue that with the police Assistant Commissioner after 9 o'clock. He says he's wanting you to dob those people in. Have a look at the video on TV, dob them in. Will that work? Harry, hello.
Hi Neil, how are you today?
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see the visitations to people in the hospital, like cancer wards and so forth. My daughter's been in cancer ward for the past 2 weeks, and she's been all on her own trying to get through it. She received a stem cell transplant. I'm a donor, and she can't see me. She can't see her mum. She can't see her sister. She can't see us at all. And if you want someone who's done it really tough through lockdown, well, she has, and so has all the other.
What sort of cancer does she have, Harry?
Lymphoma, I think.
Okay. Therefore, the stem transplant. How old is she?
She's in her early 20s, 23.
Poor kid. And
it's been pretty tough.
Those stem cell transplants are amazing. No, you keep your fingers crossed. It could be.
Oh, look, I have every confidence that the medical world here in Australia is going to do wonders, and it's going to cure my daughter. But the fact that she can't have that comfort of mum, dad, and sister.
Hey, I tell you what, Harry. What's her health at the moment? How's she feeling?
She's she's really good today, because today was day 5.
I've just got a thought. Hang on for a moment. We'll have a talk to you. If it would help her, if it would lift her in any way, we'll put her on the radio and have a chat to her. Now, she may feel, no, too personal, don't want to. That's fair enough. Give her our best. But if she would like to go on the radio and have a chat, it might give her a lift. We did a bit of this during the last lockdown, called it Phone a Friend. We could give her a call and have a chat to her. Have a think about it. Have a talk to her about whether she would like to do that. We're coming up to the news, the police and the protests after the news, your weekend review. Petrol. I've been sent a photograph. Petrol $1.76.9. And has anybody seen snow anywhere around Victoria? That's snow at Lawn.
Now on 3AW and across Victoria, this is Neil Mitchell.
Coming up, the young man who went from a small backyard pool in Donvale to the Olympic podium in Tokyo. It's an extraordinary tale of determination in the middle of lockdown, and the effort by his parents and his family to get him there. That's magnificent. You've got to celebrate with them. He's got a bronze medal. spent his training in this tiny backyard pool tied to the edge of the pool with a rope, effectively. 96900 693 13 13 32. The police want you to dob in a protest from Saturday. If you see them on the TV, you know somebody who went, dob them in. Would you? Will you? Is it worth a try? The estimates as many as 5,000 people, and these estimates are always a bit dodgy, turned out in the streets of Melbourne. It was worse in Sydney. Dozens of fines issued, 6 arrests, a few charges laid, and the police are now using CCTV body cam footage to try to identify the protesters who could face significant fines. On the line, Assistant Commissioner Luke Cornelius. Good morning.
Good morning, Neil, and good morning to your listeners.
And I apologise for the sound. There's nothing we can actually do about it, but I appreciate your time. What have you had anybody dobbed in yet?
Well, Neil, we've certainly received numerous calls from concerned Victorians who are reporting to us details of individuals who they've recognised at the protest. I think the use of the word dob in isn't quite right in this context. This is about identifying people who are engaging in high-risk behaviour, putting all of our lives at risk, and also putting at risk our return to a more normal and freer society. I wouldn't call that dobbing in. I would call it performing your public duty.
Yep. Okay. Well, fair enough. I mean, it's a colloquial description. I think it probably amounts to the same thing, but it does have connotations. I agree with that. How many people do you think were there?
Well, we're very experienced at estimating crowd size, and my people who give me advice on this are well practiced in estimating crowd size, and our estimation was 5,000.
Okay. Do you think they were all wackos and idiots, or do you think there might have been some frustrated, decent people in the middle of it?
No, Neil, it was a very broad mix of people who turned out on Saturday. Yes, there were certainly people at that more extreme fringe, the anti-vaxxers, the sovereign citizens, those who prosecute a view that COVID is a hoax. They were certainly there and very active and vocal. We know who many of those people are, and we'll certainly be dealing with them. But there are also plenty of mums and dads there, business owners and others who, of course, were taking the opportunity to vent their frustration. And my assessment of those people is, well, they've been led down this pathway. They've felt the best way, presumably, to give voice to their frustration was to participate in the protest on Saturday. And I have to say that behaviour, irrespective of the motivations that individuals have, has to be recognised as being behaviour which has generated an extraordinary risk for all of us, and an extraordinary risk for us being able to return to more normal lives. And I would, like many others, urge people to protest, find other ways to protest. When the clear health advice is that we shouldn't be leaving home to protest and should only be leaving home for the permitted reasons, then we need to follow that advice like the vast majority of us in Victoria do.
So if there are decent people there, have a think about it. Don't go back.
Absolutely. Don't go back, and please listen to the advice. And this isn't just advice from government or from frustrated police. This is advice from qualified health experts who haven't just been dealing with this emergency, but have been involved in dealing with the suppression of and the prevention of the spread of disease in a whole range of contexts on a global basis.
Is it right that some police were spat on?
Yeah, certainly my members have reported that they encountered people who were spitting on them, people who were hurling abuse at them, people who were getting right in the face of our members without wearing masks, and provoking physical confrontations. I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the professionalism and forbearance of my members in the face of that very extraordinary provocation from a significant number of protesters in that crowd. They, of course, are, as I'm speaking, are in the process of being dealt with. But my members, they go home at the end of an exercise like what we saw on Saturday, very concerned not only about their health, but the health of their loved ones. They are asking themselves, what am I bringing back to home, given what I've had to put up with, given that I've been spat on for the last 4 hours.
What would be have people actually been charged with that yet, for spitting on police?
Well, so far we've arrested 6 people, and a number of those have, of course, been charged with assault. Within the context of policing a crowd of 5,000, when we face that sort of behaviour, we can't just break our lines and go in and pick people off, because that then compromises our ability to secure the broader safety of the policing of the event, safe for the community and of course safe for the police. So we do need to maintain our discipline, which is why I'm acknowledging the extraordinary professionalism of my people on the day in terms of holding the line and following through on our tactics.
I guess the point I'm making, though, will people be charged with spitting on police? What sort of offence is it? What is the charge?
Well, absolutely. So we are able to double back and identify those individuals, and I've asked my frontline people to go back and review their body-worn camera footage to specifically identify those incidents so that we can then look to identify people who have engaged in that behaviour. And those people, if identified, will be spoken to and will face the prospect of being prosecuted for assault an emergency worker.
Oh, really? Spitting? I've been spat on myself at a demonstration. It's unpleasant, very unpleasant. But in this condition, this circumstance, even worse, isn't it?
It is even worse, and of course we'd outline those circumstances to a court that would ultimately deal with it. But spitting on anyone, Neil, is an assault.
Yeah. Okay, do you think fines will stop these people?
In relation to the more activist element of it, no, I don't. And in fact, a number of them have received multiple fines. There was at least one person who was arrested for breach of bail in relation to previous protesting activity. Those individuals aren't going to be getting more fines. They are going to be interviewed in relation to the breach of the Chief Health Officer directions, and we'll be presenting them to court. So we'll be charging them and presenting them to court rather than just giving them another fine.
Does that ultimately mean jail time is a possibility?
Well, that's a matter for the courts. I mean, ultimately, you can face upwards of a $20,000 court-imposed fine, although I'm told courts are more likely to limit any fine they would apply to the substantive fine that applies to a breach of the Chief Health Officer directions, which is just over $1,600.
Okay. Any police injured, by the way?
Yeah, we had 2 members injured, Neil. One, a member of the mounted branch who was received a blow to their back by an object that we think may have been a bollard, and that mounted member was received that injury as the mounted branch was departing or leaving a particular location. And another member has a sore or strained shoulder, which occurred in the course of him arresting an individual on the day.
Okay. Are you aware some of these protesters are saying they're going to do this at least once a month?
Well, I've heard at least once a month. I've also heard that a further protest is scheduled on a particular date. I'm not going to forward promote it, of course, Neil. I don't want to give these people any more oxygen than they need to breathe and stay alive. But, I mean, the key piece for us is we continue to monitor what they're planning to do. We're doing everything we can to persuade them not to do it. So, for example, we specifically reached out and spoke to 14 organisers of what occurred on Saturday. We know that 7 of those actually turned up on Saturday, notwithstanding that warning. A number of those were dealt with on the day, and we're coming after the balance of those who were there on the day. So our focus, as we continue to work through this, is to continue to urge organisers to do the right thing, and that is not leave home to protest and not encourage others to do so while it's unlawful to leave home to protest. And we'll continue to undertake those activities. And then, of course, in relation to what occurred on Saturday, we'll continue to hold people to account who have so clearly done the wrong thing. And so, again, I'd like to thank those Victorians who have contacted us to date and given us a steer on people we should be looking at and details about those individuals. And I'd certainly encourage others to continue to make those reports to us so we can follow up on them.
We're getting a lot of emails from people who say this wasn't the approach during the Black Lives Matter protests last year. What do you say to that?
Well, we're policing in a very different context. So when the Black Lives Matter protest occurred, it was in fact lawful to leave home to protest. So the permitted reasons did allow for people to be able to leave home to engage in protest. Yes, there were restrictions on outdoor gatherings and they were ultimately breached, which is why we focused on fining the organisers of the Black Lives Matter protest. But the other thing that happened with the Black Lives Matter protest was that the Victorian Aboriginal Chief Health Officer was involved, together with the Chief Health Officer, in terms of putting in place the supply of hand sanitiser, face masks and social distancing, although that did break down in the course of the protest. So all of those preventative measures were undertaken in the Black Lives Matter protest. We saw none of that on Saturday, and what we saw on Saturday was people choosing to come together for a mass public gathering in circumstances where it was absolutely unlawful. So that's the distinction. What happened on Saturday was illegal. It was unlawful. What happened with Black Lives Matter occurred within the context where leaving home to protest at that time was lawful. That's why you saw a different approach. Famously, last year, you referred to some of the protesters in these situations as being batshit crazy. Are they still there, the batshit crazy people? I referred to batshit crazy notions, Neil. I'm going to call out people's behaviour. I'm not going to have a go at people's mental health. That would be unfair. But the key thing here is I'm going to call out behaviour for what it is. And again, we certainly saw some batshit crazy behaviour happening on Saturday, and it's got to stop because it's in everyone's interest. And we in Victoria have had over 800 deaths. We don't want to see any more. And we certainly don't want to see ourselves continuing to be locked up because a small number of idiots are getting together to put everyone else's lives at risk. And just finally, and I did the situation with the removalists who came from New South Wales. Are the police now investigating that? Has it been handed to police? No, it's not been handed to police, and our advice as late as this morning was that the file still sits with Department of Health. It remains with them. We have been and we remain ready to receive that file if Department of Health choose to send it to us, and we will of course then assess it and in light of the information that's available to us, we'll consider the appropriate action. But at this stage the file certainly remains with Department of Health. Are you helping them investigate it? No, this investigation has been undertaken by the Department of Health. They've certainly had the opportunity to call on us for assistance. That request has not been made. And as I say, the file and the investigation remains a Department of Health investigation, and we stand ready to receive the file if and when it comes to us. Okay, I appreciate your time. Thank you for speaking with us. Yeah, thanks, Neil, and thank you to all your listeners who, like most Victorians, are doing the right thing. Thank you. Thank you, Assistant Commissioner Luke Cornelius. It's okay. I mean, what do you think? What do we do? Do we throw the book at these people? Do you accept? As he accepts, a section of that crowd on Saturday were decent people, frustrated, protesting, making a bad decision to be there, is the way I'd put it. In fact, Dr. Stephen Parnas made that point to me at the weekend. They're making a bad decision under pressure. And they were bad decisions. Did you go? Were you one of those who made what I would argue was a bad decision? Don't want to fight about it, just want to debate it and try and convince you. 96900. Some of the batshit crazy ones or crazy philosophies will never be
you'll never reach them. But there are a lot of decent people there who you might be able to reach. 96900 693 13 13 13. To the other thing there that Luke Cornelius said, these removalists who came down from New South Wales, brought the Delta variant here, left, didn't cooperate. The government has said all along that the police are in charge of it. Well, they're not. The Premier on Friday said it was literally on its way to police. Well, it's taken a long time to get there. The Health Department is in charge of it. Police are not involved at any level and can't be involved until they're called in. What is the problem here? Wouldn't you think the Health Department have a look at it and about 2 hours later say, hang on, there's a big get the coppers involved in this, send it to the police, they can decide whether there is anything worth prosecuting or pursuing. There's something very strange going on. I'll be very surprised if we actually see charges laid against those removalists. And one of the worst things they do is having brought it here, refuse to cooperate in helping track it. More in a moment.
Until noon, you're listening to Neil Mitchell for Richie's Smiles All Round, striving to be the friendliest team when you shop for your groceries and liquor.
9:25 on the email, nmitchell@3aw.com.au from Linda. I wouldn't protest myself, but I'm beginning to understand the level of anger that would lead people to protesting. People are losing businesses, houses, marriages. We need to find a way to live with COVID. Lockdowns are not the solution anymore. From Josh on the protesters, good on them. From Lynn, I wish I had the courage to join these protesters. This is the level of disquiet within the society which is perhaps being represented by a few people. Still the wrong thing to do in my view. Brian, hello.
Oh, good day, Neil.
Yes, Brian.
Thanks for taking my call. I went to the protest on the weekend.
Yeah.
And, it's so frustrating to hear that Cornelius call us idiots and wackos and whatever. I'm a 48-year-old professional. I run my own business, or I used to, with 4 kids and a mortgage. It's been over 200 days we've been locked down. We did the first one back in March 2020. Everybody was happy to do it. Since then, every single issue has been on this government. They know that lockdown. They know that quarantine doesn't work. What has there been? 28 breaches Australia-wide? They keep doing it. We keep locking down. We keep going through this. Neil, I can't do this anymore. I've earned hardly any money in 2 years. And I went to the protest because nobody's listening. It's very hard to run a business and feed your family and be told you're not essential. 5Ks from home. The last 2 years, it's like we're living in the twilight zone. And I never used to think much of Dan Andrews anyway, but I thought at least for the Coates inquiry, he's going to come out, he's going to put his hand up, and I'll have a bit of respect for him. And then he stood there and just looked us all in the face and said, don't remember. What else are we supposed to do, Neil?
Okay, Brian, let's have a look at that. And I feel for you. A lot of people will feel for what you're saying. I don't think Luke Cornelius was saying everybody there was a wacko and an idiot. And I would hope you're in the other category of a frustrated person who goes along to make a point. But can you do realise, because you obviously understand the dangers of COVID, that by going you are increasing the risk of the problems continuing. There must be another way. There must be another way to get the point through.
But what is that way, Neil? I used to have. I was in Vicpol for 10 years, so I know their systems, their procedures. No one has supported them more than me. I was one, but now I look at them with nothing but contempt. The way they attack people and assault people with no mask, the way they attacked Nick Patterson at the last protest. They let the Black Lives Matter one go, and just the way that Luke then justified the BLM protest, but not this one. Well, I'm sorry, but my wife and my 4 kids and my mortgage is essential. So now I'm going to just ignore any more of your stupid procedures and lockdowns because I'm over it. I can't do it anymore. And there's people like me, Neil. There's a growing chorus of people out there that aren't being listened to.
I think you're right. I think you're right. But hang on, Brian. Look, I think you're right. There is a growing chorus, as you say, and I can understand your passion. But as a former police officer, you would also understand the necessity of the rule of law. You would also understand that the danger in what you're doing is in fact extending the possibility of extending lockdowns, extending restrictions, because as long as you have people in a dangerous situation going out and potentially spreading the virus or encouraging the spread of the virus, then you're going to continue to have some sort of restriction or lockdowns. The only way through this is to keep a lid on it as much as we can until we get enough people vaccinated. And the only way we keep a lid on it is through restrictions and at times lockdowns. there's going to be more. There will be more, Brian. And we have to accept that we can't come out of this properly until we get enough people vaccinated. And that won't be till next year. I'm sorry.
Well, the vaccination's a conversation for another day, but I'm saying to you that we can't go on like this. I get what you're saying, and I've listened to you for 2 years. I get up every day and listen to your show and Tom Elliott's, and it's just the same stuff over and over. So, I just wanted to give you a different opinion. I have a shirt and tie. I'm a professional, and I went to the protest, and you know what? I loved it, and I'm going to go to the next one.
Well, Brian, thank you for calling. Have a good think about it. I don't care if you wear a shirt and tie or shorts and T-shirt or whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you have a good think about going there and the reasons I've explained why you need to have a think about going there. Don't line up with a bunch of conspiracy theorist wackos who reckon that the vaccine's putting little computers into your brain. Don't be part of that. Take your frustration. Yes, I understand your frustration. I don't know. Impose it on government somehow. I don't know. We'll try to give you the opportunity to do that and have been right through the whole pandemic. We've tried to give you an opportunity, people like you, to come to air, to make your point. Unfortunately, nobody in the government will bloody talk to us at the moment. That's driving me up the wall. Not because they won't talk to me, because they won't talk to you. And until they have the guts to come on air and talk to people like you and listen to people like you, then the disquiet is going to continue. And I'm sorry, but that's the reality. They've got to get their guts in action and come and face some of this reality. Talk to the people. Peter, hello.
Hi, morning, Neil. Look, I'm in a group on Facebook, and we actually watched all the protests with live streams. We took photos. We called the police assistance line. They know me by name. I call them that much. Your caller, Brian, just before, said Nick Patterson. That is the buzzword of the conspiracy theorist group in Melbourne. We're done. We're done with this, and I just hope and I thank the Victoria Police for the work they've done. It's not great times ahead, but we're all in this together.
Why did you take it on yourself to do that?
Because, Neil, these guys have splintered. They've gone offline. They've gone off Facebook, and a number of us have access to these groups. And police don't have the resources to sit there and watch social media and see all these live streams. It's all up to us to get us all through this. And I'm sick of these conspiracy nutters who we keep reporting.
Do you really think Brian was passionate, but he didn't sound like a nutter to me? Do you reckon he was a nutter?
He said Nick Patterson, and Nick Patterson is of a group that I'm not going to name, of a lady that I'm
aware of Nick Patterson. He referred to him being arrested and the way he was dealt with. But I don't know. I am increasingly of the belief that there were a number of people there who were not wackos, conspiracy theorists, but misguided, passionate, and made a very bad decision. Now, can you accept that?
I can accept that, but think about this. People are at a low state, and if people are feeding and peddling fear, all they're doing is growing the fear and the darkness in people.
Oh, look, Peter, thank you for calling. Thank you for calling. That's probably right. There are people who have vested interest in causing trouble, and they're using the disquiet and the frustration as a fertile ground to stir up that trouble and drag people like, if Brian's genuine, he sounds reasonably genuine, if Brian's genuine, drag him into it. I find hard to believe a bloke who's been in the police force 10 years would embrace that attitude entirely, though. Okay, ahead. A young man who is, in my view, and his family, they are magnificent role models in the middle of COVID and lockdowns. This bloke went from a backyard swimming pool in Donvale to an Olympic podium right through the lockdown. He fought on. Talk to his family in a moment.
Until noon, you're listening to Neil Mitchell.
It's 25 minutes to 10.
An update from Japan. Thanks to the new Kia Cerato GT. Get mean.
I've covered a lot of elite sports events, including Commonwealth Games and Olympic Games. I've always thought the story behind the individual is the most fascinating thing. Yeah, it's great to see the event and say, well, that's their time and that's where they came, but it's the story behind it that makes it. We're talking to the mother of a young boxer who fought last night and won. I'll talk to her later. We spoke to her on Friday about how at age 9 he decided he wanted to be a boxer, and he wasn't allowed in the gym till he was 12. This young man, I think, is such a case. He and his family. Brendan Smith is something of he's a magnificent role model through COVID. He's 21 years old. He won bronze in the 400-metre individual medley, which is an horrendous race, trying race. He trained and prepared through lockdown in Melbourne, jumping in Port Phillip Bay while the rest of us were baking bread. He even had what looked like a bungee rope tied around his waist, and he was swimming away in his tiny little backyard pool. He was fighting on because he wanted to get to Tokyo and get on the podium, and he did. On the line is his father, Peter Smith. Good morning.
Good morning.
What did you do? You put him in the pool with a rubber rope around him, did you?
Well, yeah, we tried to do our best, whatever we could do, and that was probably the best situation we could come up with. Because the pools were closed, the coach basically said, we've just got to get him in the water. So the closest thing that we could do was our backyard pool became his training ground. We basically tied a rope or a rubber rope to the cubby house, and he just jumped in the pool and started swimming in that. We tried to get a little bit warmer by putting. I was emptying a bit of the water out of the pool and filling it up with hot water from the kitchen.
Yes.
Which didn't really make much difference, but it was better than nothing.
And you got out in the bay as well?
Yes, he did. He wore a wetsuit out there, but freezing cold. Friend of ours, Robert Butcher, he was on his ski with him, and my daughter jumped in the water with him as well. So we just did what he could, basically. A bit of cycling, and it's all paid off in the end. But it was very tough for him.
How long did that go on for? Right through the lockdown, I assume.
Oh well, it went really probably nearly. It went on for probably about 5-6 weeks at least. It was different. Different states were in different situations, but of course Melbourne at that time. And at that stage, at the start of that, we still thought that the Olympics were going to be on. They hadn't been cancelled for last year. So he'd basically done all his training and he was getting close to getting ready for trials. And that's when, we just had to do whatever he had to do to try and keep his form. So we did that, and they cancelled the Olympics, as we all know, and then but he just continued to do that type of training for quite a few weeks after that.
How did he feel about jumping in the bay or jumping in the pool with the rope around him?
Not very good. He did enjoy it, I know that. He came out and he was frozen, especially in either. Both of them, they were it was pretty. Well, you know what it's like in Melbourne. Not warm, particularly that time of the year anyway. And the pools, it was freezing. Came out almost reddy blue colour.
Look, you're a family of swimmers. You're a very good swimmer. So is your wife. What motivates this young man?
I think it was just like second nature, to be honest. He just because he's got two older sisters and a younger sister, and for Brendan at a young age, he was never a good swimmer. He just really enjoyed going for a swim with his mates. It wasn't really until he was like 13, 14, 15, he was just a club swimmer and not a great club swimmer, to be honest. He couldn't get in the second relay team at Nunawading Swimming Club. He was sort of about the 10th best swimmer at the club at that stage, and then sort of got to around 15 years of age, and then just all sort of clicked. And, it just sort of took off from there, really. He just went from just being very average and just gradually like I say, over the last couple of years, he's just gone in leaps and bounds.
He'll be welcome back at Nunawading now, won't he?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
Tell me, you must be immensely proud, though.
Oh, yeah, I am, Neil. It was, terrific. It was, because the biggest amount of pressure really was just to make it to the Olympics, because it's, so cutthroat just to get the times. And because he'd done the qualifying time, but it was about 18 months before the trial, and they hadn't done a lot of competition, so it was a little bit up in the air. So that was probably the biggest relief, just to qualify, to get to go there, and then hopefully make the final, which that's really a final in itself, because all the 8 boys that made the final were within a second of each other. So that was really it didn't really matter what lane you were in. You just needed to get into the final, and then it's anybody's.
He's done beautifully. Look, great to talk to you. You're up with all the families, the swimming families in Queensland, eh?
Yes, we are. Yeah, we just managed to duck out of. Beg your pardon?
Any parties going on?
Oh yeah, a lot. A lot more, probably a lot more now for me, because he's got the 200 medley, but that's not until Wednesday. So yes, it's a lot of party. It's terrific, actually. It's worked out really well.
And what did you say? You've just ducked out of what?
Oh well, we just ducked out of lockdown. Originally, we were going to fly up here on Friday, just gone, but due to Melbourne's lockdown looming, we sort of decided that we needed to, get out of the state. So we got our passes and sort of we drove up in the end.
Well, look, it's great to talk to you. Enjoy the experience, and we might talk later in the week if that's okay. And the medal's yours as well. You and the family. It's not just his, as he will well know. Brendan Smith, and that's his dad, Peter Smith. Brendan Smith, bronze in the 4x100 metre medley. Peter Smith, his dad. Back in a moment.
Until noon, you're listening to Neil Mitchell.
After 10, weekend review, what you've seen out and about. While you've been out and about, I saw quite a few people ignoring mask rules. Many of them the boomer age, actually. The boomers would be the most likely to follow the mask rules. And what about this? Is the traffic out there? Owen says, driving around today and over the weekend, must be a lot of essential workers out there. The traffic is unbelievable. Is he right? 96900 693 13 13 32. What's the traffic like? Victorian taxpayers, you and I, have paid for this. It's an advertisement playing in prime time on Sydney commercial television, advertisement placed by the Andrews government. You and I have paid for it. Have a listen.
An important message from the Victorian government. To stop the spread of coronavirus, new restrictions are now in place for extreme risk zones. If you're in New South Wales, you cannot get a permit to enter Victoria. If you try to enter, you could be fined unless you have an exemption. Strict exemptions apply. For the latest updates, go to coronavirus.vic.gov.au. Authorised by the Victorian Government, Melbourne.
Yeah, good luck with that website. Well, what do you think? It played last night on the late in the 6 o'clock news, the Sydney news on Channel 9, Sydney. I wonder if the other channels had it as well. Is it really necessary in the way it's shouty? Jeez, I don't know. Anyway, we've paid for it. It is out there. If you're in Sydney, don't come to Victoria or we'll shoot you. Almost. Kelly, hello.
Hello. How are you, Neil?
Okay.
I just want to say that I went to the protest on Saturday because I am like your other caller. I have had enough. It is literally like we're living in the twilight zone. The most concerning thing for me is the effect that it's having on the children. Like, as a mum with 3 little boys, one with special needs, who can't go to his OT, can't go to his speech therapist because of this continuous, I don't even know what you want to call it anymore. I have a 3.5-year-old at the dinner table discusses being in lockdown. As when we went into lockdown at the beginning, my 5-year-old turned around and said to me, Dan Andrews, press the button. And I just think to myself, What is this
well,
causing
Kelly,
to the children?
Kelly,
I don't understand.
Many people will share the pain you're explaining, but what's the option?
Well, it's something better than this, Neil, because this just can't go on anymore.
But what?
It
What
just
is
can't
it?
go on.
Going to a protest and running the risk of spreading the virus isn't an option. What is an option?
You know what? That's not up to me to figure out, Neil. That's up to the people in the government to figure out. We pay them a lot of money, yeah?
Okay, right. Well, fair enough. We'll come back from that a step. Do you understand, do you accept that by going to that protest you are indulging in action that could in fact threaten your children?
As in what? Because I'm going to get sick?
Well, maybe,
Is that what you mean by that?
Maybe. And maybe you take the virus home, yeah.
Well,
God
I was
willing
outside,
you don't,
Neil, and transmission outside, you know, there's basically
It's
no
unlikely.
medical literature that supports that.
No.
So,
We'll ask the people at the
it's-
MCG and the people who went into Amy Park who got the virus because they were in close contact with people. It
Well,
can
that's
happen
a risk
outside.
I'm willing to take to fight for my basic human freedoms and my civil rights and for my children's future.
So what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? If you
I want
you've got what?
change. Something needs to change. We cannot go on like this. We cannot go on like this. Well, I'm lucky that my husband actually works, but imagine other people that don't even have money to feed their kids, to pay the school fees. There needs to be some sort of solution.
Kelly, thank
keep on
you.
happening next year.
Kelly, thank you for calling. And yes, it is going to keep on happening. There will be restrictions and there will be lockdowns until we get enough people vaccinated. Have you been vaccinated, by the way, Kelly? Are you still there? Have you been vaccinated?
Feeding, and I will take my time, and I will make
Kelly,
my decision.
You
Yes.
haven't been vaccinated.
No, I'm breastfeeding at the moment, and I will take my time, and I will make an informed decision when
Well, all right.
all
Can I
the
just say
data
this
is
to you?
available to me.
Just say this to you, Kelly. Thank you. Please just think about it quickly. Make that decision quickly, and there is specific advice for breastfeeding mothers. Have a look at that. Talk to your doctor, because we're not going to. You haven't got an answer. I haven't got an answer. I think it needs to be handled better than it is, but that doesn't mean we end the lockdowns. We're going to have them until we get vaccinated. So think about that. I hate them as much as anybody, but they've got to be better managed. That's all I'd say. We're not going to end them.
Until noon, you're listening to Neil Mitchell.
Okay, coming up on the program, masks. They're here to stay, but there's a campaign to say you shouldn't have to wear them in certain circumstances. Do you really object to wearing a mask? I must admit it doesn't worry me, although it does worry me when I see people wearing them around their neck, around their chin. We've got a superb example, nothing to do with COVID, of the community pulling together to help a veteran who really deserves help. Snow, you had any out about anywhere in the weekend? Weekend review as well, and the traffic. Is the traffic really as bad as some people are telling me? 96900 693 13 13 32. What did you see out and about in the weekend? Were the mask laws being obeyed? Were people gathering in numbers? Were they exercising alone? I think we've got used to it, but are we following the rules? We don't like it, but do we do it? 96900 693 13 13 32.
Now on 3AW and across Victoria, this is Neil Mitchell.
Weekend review ahead. People wearing masks. Are they wearing masks? Are they not wearing masks? Because there's a campaign, well, not a campaign, there's a lobby group saying we should have to wear the masks only in certain circumstances. Masks are with us to stay, I fear. 96900 693 13 13 32. Shane McGuinness says that the Olympic opening ceremony was boring. I'd like your views on that. Is the traffic bad? I'd like your views on that. Anything you would like. And a very heartwarming case at the moment, nothing to do with COVID, just to do with the community stepping up to help. Ernie, hello.
Morning, Neil. Traffic just was around the southeastern suburbs, Springvale Road, Monash Freeway. Over the weekend I was on call, traffic everywhere, 2 cop cars.
So you don't think, well, there's a lot of essential workers out there, Ernie?
There must be a lot of essential workers, mate, you know, guys with their wives, sort of 4-wheel drive with the bikes on the back, and people aren't taking it serious.
Thanks, Ernie. Thank you very much. Is that your experience? Well, actually, I drove my wife to a medical appointment last week, and I was thinking as we were driving, well, we're a prime target for the police because we're not. You're not allowed to go shopping in pairs, and here we have a man and woman in the car together. Where are you going and why? Well, we weren't stopped, and we had legitimate reason, of course. Well, one, I'm an authorised worker, but second, I'm entitled to drive my wife to a medical appointment. John, hello.
Hey, Neil. Yesterday I came out for the first time since lockdown started, and I had to go to North Melbourne. I could not believe the amount of graffiti that has happened in Melbourne in the last 10 days. If you drive to the end of City Link towards Flemington Road, where the cheese sticks are, is just unbelievable, and then driving all the way through, I think, Racecourse Road, down towards Arden Street and beyond, just everything. If it's not still, it's tagged, it's graffitied, and I've heard you say how disgusting Melbourne looks in the CBD. Well, what's going on in the outer suburbs? It's just disgusting. It's terrible.
Isn't that interesting? What's your theory on that, John? Why would it be happening?
I don't know, but most of it's around those, are we allowed to call them housing commissions nowadays? But what was lockdown there in lockdown 2? That's the predominant area it's in, but it's just unbelievable. And especially being on City Link, I thought they've got cameras all over the place there. Surely they're seeing these guys out there at night riding all over those walls and everything else, apart from then the private areas. But just, I could not believe what I'd seen in the matter of 10 days.
And what was the worst area, you thought?
The end of the freeway at the Flemington Road end, that whole, yellow walls, big area. But just then follow it all the way through. If you drive down towards Arden Street from there, it's just everything is tagged.
All right. Thank you, John. Thank you very much. Hang on, we get details for the MVP. We could win a Mercedes for the weekend from 3 Point Motors, go into the draw for a brand new Benz at the end of the year. I have noticed a fair bit of... We'll get on to Vic Roads about that one specifically, but anybody else notice that? Has there been an explosion in graffiti through lockdown? Why would that be? Why would that be? Would there be less policing? There might be. Less traffic around? 96900 693 13 13 32. Anything else? Now, amidst all the anger and frustration over the weekend, this stood out to me a bit of loveliness. Ralph Warmer is 88 years old. He is a war veteran of Korea, Malaya and the atomic tests in Montebello Island. He was robbed last week while he was out for a walk. I saw him talking about that after the event. Now, that made him a little bit nervous about venturing out again, which is fair enough at 88. And that's where the lovely part of the story has come in, because his neighbours, his local community, has set up a little club to help him, to walk with him. Mel Ward is one of the organisers. Mel Ward, hello.
Hello, Neil. How are you going?
I'm good. Now, how did this come about? What happened?
Oh, well, like everybody, I was watching the news and saw that beautiful Ralph was attacked and assaulted and had all of his possessions on him stolen by some thug, unbeknownst to him, just crept up behind him and sniped at him, and he fell to the ground and hit his head, and I realised that I lived a street away from Ralph, and I've got young children, and was just utterly appalled, like most people who saw it. And jumped on our local community Facebook page and just put a call out to everybody within the Cheltenham region that if we'd like to, create a walking club so that Ralph felt like he had some company, and, there's power in numbers, Neil, and just for him to feel safe again being out. Nobody should feel the way Ralph is feeling right now.
So what do you do? How does it work? What do you do?
So every day we meet. We've got a meeting spot at 10:30, and whoever's available to walk with Ralph turns up, and we have a good walk and a chin wag. And it only started a couple of days ago, but we've had a really, really great response so far. So it's been wonderful.
Gee, that would be. He'd be on what I've seen him, be a fascinating man to talk to while you're going for a walk, wouldn't he?
He really is amazing. I'm sitting here in his lounge room now. He's got amazing artwork and stories to tell, and he's a wonderful person. So.
And what's the response has been good. I believe even some kids have stepped up to help, have they?
Children, people of all ages, people from outside of the community, obviously, that can't travel within the 5 kilometre radius at the moment, are really keen to join when restrictions are lifted. But we've got young children, the elderly, middle-aged women like myself, lots of people. So it's the response has been huge, Neil. We've had over 500 people, calling out and responding to the Facebook post.
Gee, that's lovely. How long can you keep it going, do you think? What's the aim?
Well, my intent is to keep it going. I'm back at uni at the moment, so I can get out with Ralph, and that's my intent, to keep it going for as long as necessary. And it's good for everybody. It's a positive thing for us to do when everyone's feeling really crappy at the moment. And so that's my intent, and I'm hoping that people will continue the journey with us. And Ralph walks every single day, rain, hail or shine. So if he can do it, we can do it.
How far do you walk with him?
It's a short walk. It's a brisk walk. He's really fit. He walks every single day at 88 years old. So I'd probably say it's about 1 kilometre in total.
That's all right.
It's not too far, but yeah, no, he's a fit guy.
Okay.
Nothing's going to pin him down, that's for sure.
And what are you doing at university? Studying or lecturing? What are you up to?
Oh, I'm studying. I'm doing a health science degree for osteopathy at the moment. So
good on you.
It's a bit interesting.
You got a big heart, obviously, for that. Can we have a word to Ralph, please, Mel?
Absolutely. He's right here. I'll put him on for you.
Mel Ward, Ralph Woolmer.
Good morning.
Neil Mitchell, Ralph, gee, some good people in the world, aren't there?
There are some very, very good people in the world now, and it makes you realise just what your community contains. You might walk through it daily, go and see all these people. When they get together, they are a strong community that are caring for each other.
How are you feeling now after the incident?
Physically, I'm okay, but the trauma is there, Neil, and it comes back and grabs you at the most unlikely moments. It's just something that I've got to get over with, and perhaps even take some counselling to help me get over with.
That's not a bad idea. They're pretty good at doing that these days. We can help you with that if you want some help, finding somebody. But what did they steal in the end?
Oh, they stole. I carry an over-the-shoulder attaché, and they stole my wallet, which contained all my credit cards, driver's license, took the house keys, took my car keys. There was $250 in the wallet. Everything went.
Oh God, that's awful.
Yeah, and there was also a gift from my mother, which was a business card case, a gold case that she gave me some 60-odd years ago. So that's sentimental value that you can't replace.
And that hasn't turned up?
No, it hasn't turned up. No, I think that's gone into the pot, Neil.
Yeah, you'd fear so, wouldn't it? Who gave it to you? Did you say your mother gave it to you?
No, my mother gave it to me, yes.
Oh, God, that's awful, isn't it? I mean, the money you can replace and you can get your credit card stopped. I'm sure you've done all that, but something like that.
Done all that, yeah.
And tell me, what do you talk to about when you're walking with these people?
Oh, a multitude of subjects.
I bet you do.
It's like you, Neil. What do you talk to about the people on your program? A multitude of subjects.
You've done a lot more than I have, though. You've seen a bit of the world, haven't you? Seen a bit of life.
Oh yes, I've seen a bit of life, and it's been interesting. And I'm not over seeing a bit more life yet, Neil.
I can tell that you're very much in touch with the world. What did you serve in Korea? Did you?
Yeah, I served in Korea, and in Malaya, and in the Far East Strategic Reserve, and just as a little bonus, I was at Montebello Islands for the atomic tests.
Goodness me, what do you remember about all those things?
Why do we go to war?
Yeah, a lot
Why
of veterans.
Do we go to war?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we still do it.
We still do it. Well, it's human beings, Neil, and they will do it forever.
How long were you in Korea?
About 12 months.
Yeah. So a lot of people even forget about the Korean War, don't they? And it was a fair dinkum nasty war, wasn't it?
Very, very nasty war, yes. And there again, that was something that one side came and just invaded another part of their country to dominate them.
Yeah.
Dictators, and that's what they are.
Yeah. Tell me, how are you coping with the COVID and the lockdown and the rest of it, Ralph?
Like everybody else, I don't appreciate the lockdown, but realise that we've got to do something to try and curb it. I have had both my vaccinations, so I'm fully vaccinated. And,
See, a bloke like you, you've seen a lot of life and some of the bad side of life, I said. You've lived a long time. You've lived in this country a long time. What do we do? How do we sort of encourage people to get through this? How do we help people through it?
Yeah, I think we've got to reach out to each other and support each other in this, Neil. Just say, well, I've been vaccinated. You go and be vaccinated, because I don't want to catch it from you, and you don't want to pass that terrible disease on to somebody else.
Yeah.
I think we've just got to get together with people and encourage them to join us and fight it together.
Yeah, the together line. I agree. Look, it's a delight to speak to you. If we can do anything to help, let us know. If you want some counselling, we can certainly help with that. And if we can, look, you've got a good team helping you walk there, though, so you don't need that. Anything we can, you let us know, will you?
Yeah, I will do, Neil. And thank you for talking to me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Ralph. You take care. Ralph Woolmer, 88 years old, robbed. Geez, what would you do to the person who robbed him? Anyway, the money and everything else he can cope with. It's a gift from his mother, 60 years old. From his mother, 60-year-old gift. Veteran of Korea, Malaya, the atomic test, Montebello, Ralph Woolmer, Australian veteran. And good on the people down there for stepping up to help the Cheltenham Walking Club. God bless them. More in a moment. What's happening out there? 96900 693 13 13 32.
Until noon, you're listening to Neil Mitchell.
There must be other examples of community angels like Mel Ward and her mates who've stepped up to help in a situation like that. 96900 693 13 13 32. If you've seen your community doing similar things, and I like that basic message at the end there. Really was do it for each other. You're in it together, and that's one thing that people don't really. A lot of the politicians say, "Oh, we're all in this together," and they spend their time sniping at each other. The reality is, we are in it together, and until enough people get vaccinated, I don't think there's much hope that we're going to get on top of it. I'd love to see another option, but I don't. John called earlier about graffiti. Said he thought there'd been an explosion. Paul agrees. There has been an explosion of graffiti in Melbourne during Lockdown 5. An example is Brunswick Street. Many of the shop fronts have been vandalised with graffiti, including one of Melbourne's most beautiful shops, Flowers Vasset. I guess it's a lack of traffic. Idiots can storm along Brunswick Street vandalising it, tagging it, and there's no traffic going past to spook them in the middle of the night. And on the issue of compliance from Melanie, it's noticeable how many people are not wearing masks at all or are wearing them incorrectly. One building site on Saturday had 6 tradies on it, not a single mask in sight, and no social distancing. Well, tradies I'm going to check that, might be exempt. Ken, hello.
Good morning, Neil. Look, I live on the Tullamarine side of the Tullamarine Freeway, or the City Link, and I'm disgraced at the amount of damage done by these graffiti guys. I think we need to get these guys and really fine them heavily, or even put them away. It's just a disgrace. You have these pretty, buildings and walls and things that they've done on City Link, and they're just disgraced by this unruly crowd that just keeps on graffitiing everything.
Do you think it's got worse under lockdown?
Oh, it has. It certainly has. We've had the local paper talking about this, and there was another guy that was pushing the issue, and we're trying to get it fixed, but there's just not enough done to police it. And with cameras, etc., surely to God we can catch some of these guys and make an example of them. We've just got to do something.
Thanks, Ken. Thank you for calling. I'm puzzled as to why lockdown. Thank you, Ken. I'm puzzled as to why lockdown actually encourages graffiti. All I can think of, particularly in a shopping strip like Brunswick Street, is that they would go there at night and there's not much traffic around. That's all I can assume. Les, hello.
Good morning, Neil. How are you and your listeners? I'm down at Geelong, Neil. I'm just ringing up about the amount of hoons that are doing wheelies, doing burnouts down here in Corio, North Lane, Geelong. what they do is they set up the where the cameras are, even at the lights, and they have a car at the front, and they have another car at the rear, and they're on a mobile phone, and they text each other and talk to each other. They're always one-headed jump of the police because I've reported them a couple of times. But it doesn't take rocket science, Neil. It's cars that are driving around with ordinary wheels on the back of the car, and on the front of the car, on the steering wheels, they have their mags and that. So they just put the old ones that they want to burn out. Now, most of these cars have no number plates, Neil.
All right, thank you, Les. Well, we talk to the police about that regularly, but given that you've taken it up with the police, we'll take it up there as well. Thank you for calling. Many times over the years we've talked about why and how winter is the dangerous time for house fires. We always issue the warning. I think we even did again this year. We make the warning, be careful with your appliances, be careful putting stuff near fires, all the usual. And inevitably we do get fatalities, and it's happened overnight. 2 fatal house fires, one at Dandenong, the other at Laverton. 3 adults, 2 children managed to escape when the fire broke out in their home in Dandenong, Leonard Street. 1 small child couldn't be rescued, died in the fire. 1 neighbour tried desperately to get the child out, was seriously burnt in the attempt. And then in Laverton, fire broke out around midnight in a home in Badge Court. The body of a woman was found inside. 3 men are taken to hospital suffering burns and smoke inhalation. Matt is on the line. He lives in that street in Laverton. Hello, Matt.
Hello.
Did you hear it when it all broke out, when it started?
Yeah, Neil, we did. At first, we thought there was an argument going on outside, and then when my daughter checked, she let loose with an almighty scream, and there was flames just bellowing into the sky.
How far away from your house is it?
3 houses.
Oh dear.
Court.
Oh dear. Is the house destroyed, I suppose?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And that.
Yeah. And what did you do when your daughter saw what was happening? Did you go out into the street?
Yeah, we went out. The daughter rang 000. We went over there. One of the other neighbours had tried to get in, but the smoke and repelled him back. The fire repelled him back. The daughter tried to go in, and she only got as far as the driveway, and the smoke was too much for her. And that, the rest of the neighbours and all that, we tried to hook up hoses, but that didn't work. And we just waited on to did what we could, sort of thing, until the emergency services arrived.
So you did suspect there was somebody inside, obviously.
Yeah, we spoke to the woman's son, and he said Mum's still inside.
Oh dear.
And that, and the husband was out the back screaming out to her.
Jeez, that's awful, isn't it? Awful.
It is.
Stuff. They're both in hospital. So's the neighbour who tried to help, I believe.
I'm not sure. I haven't been up to see him yet.
Yeah. Oh, you know him?
Yes. He's a hell of a nice bloke. He'd help anyone. And that.
How old would he be, Matt?
Joe, probably early 50s.
Oh, good on him. Good on him. And what about do you know the woman who has died in the fire?
Yeah, I know her, not a great deal, not as much as my daughter, because I haven't been here that long. And that.
Yeah. But she's a friend of your daughter's. Yeah. How is your daughter? How is your daughter? She must have been really upset, particularly trying to get in to help.
Yeah, she was upset. She's got a pretty level head, you know. And that she went to work today, but we don't know whether she's going to be there all day or not. And that she was upset this morning.
Don't blame her. Well, look, you take care. Matt, thank you for talking to us. Let us know if there's anything happening out there that we can help with. That sounds awful. Husband out the front screaming to the woman who's inside, since found dead, and her son, husband at the back, son out the front, both trying to get help for their mum and wife. And she's died, and 50-year-old man, Joe, trying to get in to help her. He's ended up in hospital, so have the husband and son of the dead woman. That's out in Laverton. We'll take a break. 96900 693 13 13 32. Back to the Olympics in a moment. Another one of the stories behind the athletes, because they're fascinating just to see how these young men and women get to the top, or close to the top, of what they're doing.
Until noon, you're listening to Neil Mitchell.
Hey, I'd love to hear from anybody listening who has been, hopefully you recovered, but diagnosed as COVID positive with the Delta variant. If you've had the Delta variant, I'd love to hear from it. I'd like to try and establish whether it is any different to the many callers we had last year who had the Alpha variant, the original variant. 96900 693 13 13 32. If you have been confirmed as COVID positive with Delta. Megan, hello.
Good morning, Neil. I've also made a new friend during lockdown, and he's an elderly neighbour of mine. Each morning I walk my dog, and he's sitting in the front window of his house, and we wave every morning. And during the last lockdown, I went and took him some food and some flowers, and we were able to meet at the front door, and his name's Bob. So I'm very happy to have made a new friend. I live by myself, so it's been a bit lonely during the last 2 lockdowns, so he's certainly brought a smile to my dial.
Oh, that's lovely. How old would Bob be?
He's 89.
Good on him. Good on him. All right, Megan, well done. And that, look, it's benefit to both of you. Thank you. Thank you very much for calling. Okay, the Olympics.
An update from Japan. Thanks to the new Kia Cerato GT. Get mean.
We're sort of following this the campaign of this young man, Harry Garside, 24-year-old Mirrabulk boxer. He won last night. Now, I spoke to his mum, Kate, at some length on Friday, and she told us all the family secrets, like Harry, at age 9, decided he wanted to be a boxer, but wasn't allowed in the gym till he was 12, and has had a very successful career so far, but the Olympics is the pinnacle for him. She's back on the line. Hello, Kate.
Hello, Neil. How are you this morning?
I'm okay. Now, did you watch the fight on your phone, or how did you watch it?
I watched the fight through my hands that were over my eyes, secretly watching every now and again. I could hear the commentary, so I sort of knew things were going all right. So I was relaxing as the fight went on.
Have you spoken to him since?
Yes, I actually spoke to him about 10 minutes ago, and I spoke to him last night as he was walking back to the village, and he's feeling very relaxed and happy with the outcome.
That's good. And he's okay? No injuries or anything?
No injuries, nothing, and he was glad to clear the cobwebs out after 18 months of not being able to fight due to COVID. He was pleased to get that one under his belt.
Yeah, it's a big one. And what's next? What happens for him now?
Okay, so on Saturday, around the same time, Saturday night, he'll be fighting Jonas from Namibia. So he was the 64-kilo gold medalist from the Com Games. So it'll be a very good bout, I'm tipping.
How does it work? How many fights do you have to get through to get to a gold-silver bout?
For a gold, he needs to win 5 fights, which is what he had to do in the Commonwealth Games. And he did that very well. So we're hoping that's a good omen. 5 for gold, as we would call it.
He must be a good boy, you know. He's walked out of a fight. He'd be all fired up for that. He's won the fight well. And what does he do? He rings his mum on the way back home.
Well, that's exactly right. No, he is a good boy. And, he's been doing lots of things to help him mentally. He's doing ballet, or he has done ballet to get his footwork right. He's gives himself challenges every month that he has to do something. He's been without social media. Lots of different things that he does. So it really has cemented him and grounded him. So he is a good boy, and we're very proud of him.
I've heard he even uses karaoke. Is that right?
Oh, well, he tried to use karaoke. I don't know whether we could say he used it because he wasn't very good at it. He wasn't very good at it.
Can't sing.
He can't sing, no, but that's okay. But he's done poetry, that's his latest thing that he's been doing. And he challenged himself once with the army to stand up. He hates public reading in public. And he took an excerpt out of a book and read to the actual army one day just as a surprise. He just likes challenging himself to make sure that he's expanding his mind and expanding his being uncomfortable with being uncomfortable.
Could we hear some of his poetry one day?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you could.
Oh, well, we'll set that up for next time we talk. I also hear that he volunteers at the Reach Foundation. Is that right? Or
yes,
has?
That's correct. So he, so he's still involved with the Reach Foundation. They came into his life in Year 10 at Lilydale High School, which was great timing, actually. Harry was at the crossroads, not winning many fights, wondering what he was going to do, and they came into his life and they took him on board, and now he helps the youth and younger children to realise their dreams as well.
Good on him. Did he ever meet Jim Stones?
No, he didn't meet Jim Stones, but he has certainly heard lots about him, and he's one of Harry's idols. So, yes, that was it's a real privilege for him to be involved in that group.
Well, Jim Stones was a very good mate of mine, and I tell you what, he would be loving this with Harry. He'd be right in the middle of it, telling us how he'd made it happen. He would love it.
Well, good on him. Yeah, and, I just think that it's an opportunity for the Reach Foundation to be able to look at someone that was at their crossroads in life and say, okay, well, what we're doing is actually working. So that's good.
Oh, that's delightful. Hey, he's a plumber, isn't he, by trade?
Well, he did a plumbing apprenticeship. Well, he hasn't finished it. He's actually stopped doing that now. He's gone to uni. He decided that doing a manual labour wasn't really what he wanted to do with his body. It was too hard while he was training to become a boxer. So he has gone to uni. He's studying marketing with sports management as his major at Griffith University in Queensland.
Oh, good on him. Good on him.
Yeah.
Well, look, thank you very much. I'd love to talk to you as we get to as we continue through the Olympics. I was just thinking, though, you've got 3 boys, haven't you?
I have got 3 boys, yes.
You must have felt like a boxing referee at times.
Well, I used to say to them when they were growing up, could you not fight in the house? Just go outside and fight out there. And by the time they got out there, they would forget what they were actually fighting about. So it worked sometimes.
What a great strategy. Thank you very much for talking to us. Take care. We'll talk again soon. We should give him our best, please.
I will do. Bye-bye.
Kate Garside. Oh, I can just see Jimmy Stones lapping this up. Poor old Jim. He would have loved this. Harry Garside, that's his mum, Kate, and Harry. They do great work, the Reach Foundation. It makes you think about sort of crossroads moments in your life. A lot of young men I know have been sort of standing in a situation saying, righto, if I go that way, I'm going to end up in all sorts of trouble. If I go that way, I've got a reasonable law-abiding life. I've employed a few such people over the years. Some of them went the wrong way. One of them pinched a typewriter and was never seen again. Back in a moment.
Until noon, you're listening to Neil Mitchell for Richie's Smiles All Round, striving to be the friendliest team when you shop for your groceries and liquor.
15 minutes to 11. We will continue to talk to the Olympic families through the event, and as some of the athletes come home, we'll talk to them as well. They get out pretty quickly. We're not allowed to talk to them when they're in the Olympic Village, but once they get out and they come back into quarantine, we'll talk to them. Hello, Alex.
Good morning, Neil.
Yes, Alex.
I just wanted to report that we've actually, where I live at the moment in a complex, I've got removalists who are not masked. I've asked them a couple of times to put the mask on. They're complaining that they can't move the furniture because they can't breathe with the mask on. And I said to them, this is the whole reason why we're in this lockdown, is because you guys aren't wearing masks. So it's a bit frustrating. We're not too sure what to do. They won't abide to body corporate.
What I tell you what, Alex, thanks for calling. What I suggest you do, and I'm not even sure that they are required to wear masks when they're doing something of physical exertion, such as that. I'm not 100% sure of that. Shane Patton said to me on Friday there was a chance the New South Wales removalists were entitled to work without their masks. But I tell you what, you call the COVID hotline and we'll check it out for you in the meantime. We'll check it out on the list of restrictions. And if you want to tell the COVID hotline, do so. Okay, sport. Tony Jones.
Sport for Benatas. All the support you need to be yourself. For more information, visit benatas.com.au.
And did anybody watch the Olympics opening ceremony? 96900 693 13 13 32. Anybody watch it? Because Shane McGuinness says it was boring. Tony Jones, did you watch it?
No, I didn't, because I think for the most part opening ceremonies are boring. So I gave it a wide berth, and I thought everything I need to see, I'll see on the highlights on the news the following night. What I did see that was impressive was the use of the drones to create the glow, which I thought was fantastic. But having said that, I think the opening ceremonies for the most part are boring. I think the games themselves are absolutely fantastic. And whilst I didn't think these games should have gone ahead in the first place, as a lot of people didn't, they are going ahead. Nothing we can do is going to stop them, so we might as well embrace them. And embrace them I have over the weekend. I just couldn't... I mean, I found myself sitting there watching the TV and also on another channel that you can get on the digital platform on the iPad, and I'm thinking, why am I watching a water polo match between South Africa and Spain?
Because you had nothing else to do, that's why.
I'm sure there were things to do. The back lawn comes to mind, but it's just one of those things, isn't it, Neil? It's a bit like the World Cup soccer, where you embrace it. It's on, with a blanket coverage, and now that we're in this digital age, there are so many platforms where you can watch anything, anytime. Now, I sound like I'm working for Channel 7, but the simple fact is, you're not going to beat it, so you might as well embrace it, and that's exactly what I've done, and I think a lot of other people have as well.
Yep, look, and you look at the figures for the opening ceremony, I was surprised. Over 3 million people in Australia watched it and stayed with it. The US had the lowest ratings for many, many years for the opening ceremony.
Well, yeah. Well, I suppose 14 million of us are in lockdown.
Well, that's true.
Audience at the moment. But look, I think, and this morning, obviously, and I know that you'll deliver the news when it happens. There are more gold medal chances, and in the pool, of course. But outside of that, I mean, there's so many other things to look forward to. I think our basketball is coming up in the next couple of nights. Our men's basketball was played last night. That was against Nigeria. It should have been a walkover, but it wasn't. I mean, the American basketball team, the Dream Team, lost the first time they've done that since Athens, I think. So it's just one story after another, and it's for a game that has had everything against it. They've got everything going for it at the moment.
Now, Collingwood has lost its president, its coach, and its captain in one season, and you'll miss one of them.
Yeah, I mean, again, let's talk about the water polo, South Africa versus Spain. I think. Yeah, well, look. Sorry, which one are we missing, by the way?
Oh, you'll miss Pendles. You'd need Pendles. Anyway, let's move on from that, because I wish him well. Hope he's back fit and healthy next year. Who are the premiership favourites at the moment? I mean, Melbourne obviously no longer, if they ever were, in fact, after being beaten comprehensively by Footscray. Who are the favourites?
Yeah, well, I mean, Melbourne it was disappointing, because that's a game that in normal times would have had a packed house at the MCG, given it was 1 versus 2. But I just never felt, and I was a neutral viewer, Neil, unlike yourself, that obviously was hoping for a Melbourne win. I didn't care who won, but I was wanting a really close game. And whilst it got to within 9 points there at one point late in the game, you just never felt as though Melbourne was in the hunt. And maybe that's reflecting what we think coming into the finals too about Melbourne. But time will tell us where they can turn it around. But to answer your question, I think the Bulldogs are flying at the moment. They've got a beautiful blend of experience and youth. Marcus Bontempelli is an absolute standout as a player, as a captain, as a person. And he's probably got the Brownlow in the bag at the moment. So I think it's all there for the Bulldogs. And they're the sort of club, aren't they, Neil, where you don't hear that much of them. They sort of go about their business sort of under the radar in a lot of ways.
Yeah, well, the coach is very low-key. Decent bloke too. Now, just in a word, David Teague at Carlton, will he survive the year or not?
Yes. but not beyond the end of the year. Not beyond the end of the year. I think they've given that commitment that you'll see out the season. There's only another 4 weeks to go, so what would be the point other than appeasing Carlton supporters? But having said that, Neil, what they dished up against North Melbourne on the weekend, in that third quarter in particular, no other coach would have survived that, but David Teague obviously will. And it's a bit crass, isn't it, sort of talking about the futures of people like this so publicly, but that's the nature of the beast with coaching. But quite clearly, he's not going to be there next year, and the message just isn't getting through. And as I say, based on that third quarter alone, there has to be change, and it's got to be in the coaching office, I'm afraid.
Well, look, you're right, it is a bit indecent, but if the ratings showed that everything was terrific on Channel 9 until 20 to 7 when you came on, and then they plummeted, we'd be talking about your future too.
Yeah, don't dig too deep, Neil. We're ratings based and we're judged every day, aren't we? You are, we are. I mean, our ratings come out just after 9 o'clock, I think it is, each morning. So we're judged every day. And you're right. I mean, if it goes down the gurgler, then I don't think we'll have the whole town talking about it.
Okay, in 2 words, who's the next Collingwood captain? Will it be Scott Pendlebury or somebody else next year? Taylor Adams, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, Taylor Adams. Tony Jones, Channel 9 News Sport. Back in a moment.
Until noon, you're listening to Neil Mitchell.
Coming up to the 11 o'clock news in the hour ahead, we have got potentially a gold medal swim underway around about 11:30. We've got a number of events beginning and unfolding. There's a lot going, as always happens with these, with any Olympics and the Commonwealth Games. In fact, the swimming is the concentration first, and we move to track and field. We'll have more of that at 11:30, and keep an eye on what's happening. Shane McGuinness will take us through it stroke by stroke in the swimming. I also want to talk about Aussie Post. You have trouble with parcel deliveries? Do you have serious problems with parcel deliveries? And the weekend review. What have you seen out and about? Are people following the mask rules? Because there's a lobby from business saying, why should we have to wear a mask when we're sitting at a desk? I don't think it's a big problem. What do you think? Masks, accept them or reject them? It's ahead.
Now on 3AW and across Victoria, this is Neil Mitchell.
Okay, I'm afraid it's unlikely by the look of things that we're going to learn much about the easing of restrictions today. Certainly not this morning. It's possible this afternoon, but we've just been told that 11:30 there will be a media conference involving Health Minister Martin Foley, Jerome Weimar, the COVID commander, and the Deputy Secretary in the Health Department, Kate Matson. If there was to be an easing of restrictions, the Premier would be announcing it, I'm sure. So either we're not going to find out today, or we're not going to find out until sometime this afternoon. New South Wales. 145 new local cases, 51 of them infectious in the community, just on 100,000 test results, just under yesterday's record of 102,000. They are in real trouble there. They really are. What is it, 8 deaths now, 145 new local cases, 51 of them infectious in the community. We've got 11, none of them infectious in the community. Look, we'll listen to what is happening in this press conference at 11:30, but if they're not announcing easing of restrictions or ending of the lockdown, then I doubt they've got much to add to the sum of human knowledge. We'll check it. Amy, hello.
Hi.
Yes, Amy.
Hi, I was just ringing to say we held a mammoth virtual cheerleading and dance event on Sunday to replace the competition that the Victorian cheerleaders and dancers were meant to be undertaking for the first time since 2019 Nationals.
Oh, dear. Well, good on you for doing it, but you couldn't actually compete virtually, could you?
No, it was a community event, and it was about giving the athletes a chance to connect and be together when usually we would be at an event together, and it was a great atmosphere with 28 different clubs all coming together to just be together for the day online.
And how many did you have there? How many involved?
So we estimated we had about 500 people involved across the day, and our warm-up session was 400 kids.
How do you run a Zoom meeting for 400 people?
With a big Zoom account.
Did you really have 400 involved?
Yeah, we had 400 kids log on for warm-ups.
That's
It was
beautiful, Amy.
incredible.
Good on you. Thank you very much. Well done. In fact, strange Zoom meetings you have had, 96900 693 13 13 32. We, last week, had a Zoom meeting for puppy class. We've got a new pup, and the first meeting, of course, couldn't be held, and we therefore had a Zoom meeting. The dogs weren't invited for that Zoom meeting, but they might have to be this week if it's still restricted. Strange Zoom meetings you have had. Amy's got to be out there in front. Scott, hello.
Yeah, good morning, Neil. How are you, buddy?
Okay.
Yep. No, we're just up here in Wodonga in northeast Victoria. So yeah, just a bit frustrated. You're doing your regional catch-ups and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, what's happening?
Well, look, for those who don't know, we're in northeast Victoria, Wodonga, and the other side of the river is Albury. And as a Victorian, I'm stuck at home. Can't go out, can't work, have to work from home. 10 minutes north of here, you're allowed to go to restaurants, meet with friends, go to the coffee, cinema, that sort of stuff. And
despite New South Wales being in much more trouble.
Well, yeah. What do we have? 11 cases today. They've got 145. We can't go out and do anything, and yet anyone in regional New South Wales is, pretty well free.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Well, that's the way they've run it here. It might ease now that we seem to have jumped on the regional cases like Bendigo and Bowen Heads. Thank you, Scott. By the way, New South Wales says it's had 10,000 calls to Crime Stoppers about the protests in the city. We've had nothing like that, but the Victorian Police have, well, they say it's not asking people to dob in people at the protest, but it really is. It's asking them if they recognise people, let the police know. New South Wales had 10,000 people step forward and say, yeah, we can help. Victoria, nothing like that, but they've had a few. Now, I mentioned at the start of the program, I think it's almost certain that lockdown will be significantly eased tomorrow, fingers crossed anyway, but there will be ongoing restrictions. There's no question. I think you'll be restricted numbers in any venues, pubs, restaurants, retail, and the mask will continue. You'll have to wear a mask in most circumstances. In fact, you might have to do that till next year. The Victorian Chamber of Commerce is arguing that you should be able to take your mask off when working at your desk. Paul Guerra, good morning.
Good morning, Neil.
Just before the masks issue, you got the nod? Any inside word on what will happen with the restrictions?
No, we're hoping to hear as well, but I suspect as your summation, it's either going to be later this afternoon or more likely tomorrow morning.
So nobody's telling you anything privately?
No, not yet. So I think there's a bit of concern as to what might have come out of the rally, and I think today's numbers, they'll then be able to assess and work out to what level they're able to lift restrictions from Wednesday. We're very optimistic that we'll get some easing come Wednesday.
But some easing will still be restrictions on numbers in retail premises and pubs and things, won't it?
Yeah, I think so. And look, I think we all expect we'll come out of this, probably not in the one big step that some of us would like, but a gradual easing. But we just don't want it to take the 6 or 7 weeks that lockdown 4 did to get back to a level that meant that every business was able to trade viably. What's the main one you would like to see eased? I think we've got to get hospitality at limits that make sense. In this one, I'd like to see gyms open for purely for mental health of people. I know that's been a big focus of the callers to your program over the last month as well. So just basically start signalling how we come out of this quickly. We crawled out of the last one, lockdown 4. We ended up in lockdown 5 pretty much straight away. We need to be able to give businesses an opportunity to come back and trade viably as soon as it's safe to do so.
And what's your feeling on masks? What's your worry about masks? I noticed the Premier said, sort of crunched it almost immediately yesterday, but what was your case? What was your argument?
Yeah, he did. Well, we know, and look, people have voted with their feet. They're not coming back into the office if they have to wear a mask full time. So we're trying to get a hybrid position here that says, we're okay with wearing masks in lift wells, in public areas. We're actually okay with wearing masks when you stand up in your office environment. But when you're sitting down at your desk and you're socially distanced, you should be able to take your mask off. Now, we know everybody's QR coding into their office, so we know who's there. Most, if not all, workplaces are saying if you're not feeling well, go and get tested. So that risk